And today, what we're going to talk about is differentiation. And I'm going to run you through the differentiation script that I wrote for my clients in the fitness space or in the fat loss space, just because a lot of them happen to be in that space. And this is really the key in getting people actually buy from you, even though they may have worked with other coaches or they've tried and bought a bunch of other solutions and it didn't work. Right. So that's the first thing, is if you differentiate the right way, you're going to be able to get people tell you that they want to do it, even if they've tried other stuff in the past. And the second benefit of differentiating yourself the right way is that you're going to be able to charge higher and not have people compare your service with someone else who does it cheaper, because there's no comparison when you position it the right way. So before we dive into that, I also want to give a bit more context on the right versus wrong ways to differentiate yourself. Reason being that whenever from what I see, like a lot of coaches who do try to explain why they're different will use arguments like, hey, well, I'm different because I actually care, or I'm different because I have 5 years of experience, or I'm different because most people do training and nutrition only, whereas I do training, nutrition, and mindset. And while those things all may be true, the fitness space is so saturated where simply making that claim isn't enough. You have to have a logical, or what I call like a logical rationale to logically, that allows your prospects to logically explain in their mind why their previous solutions failed and why your solution is the only way. So before we actually get into the script, I got this concept of Kevin Hutto, who's like an amazing marketer, Facebook ads guy. But he talks about something called the crazy scale. And the reality is in fitness, no one really pays like, okay, if we have like a scale from 0 to 100, we call this the crazy scale of like, how crazy does your solution sound? No, if you're at 0, which is like the most vanilla, like overrated thing that everyone already knows, right? Like, eat healthy and exercise and you'll lose weight. Then no one's really going to buy a high ticket offer or solution just for accountability, or it's very, very rare, right? If you're just holding them accountable. Now, on the flip side, if you go all the way to 100 on the crazy scale, and the claim or the thing, your mechanism is you can lose weight by, doing nothing but just lying in the sun naked for 10 minutes a day, then once again, no one's going to buy, because not only is it really difficult for you to back up ethically as a marketer and as a coach, but also no one's really going to believe that, right? So what that means is the sweet spot is somewhere in the middle, which is where the money is, which is 50. And to give you guys some example, for people to buy a high ticket offer, there has to be something that's called a new opportunity, which is a new way of getting a specific result. So if you're at 50, a really good example is like with P90X, their whole mechanism is, hey, like we just got to confuse the muscles to get to your goal, right? Whereas another one that's at 50 is like bulletproof coffee, where people like add butter in coffee, and then there's this weird explanation as to how it actually helps you like burn weight. So it's different and it gets people to the same result, but the method that each person uses, like your method is different from every other coach who's just saying like eat healthy and exercise. So what that means is that in terms of your mechanism or like your how to get people results, it's not enough that you're different and your story is different, and like your qualifications or your background or like your journey is different. Like you being different is different from your solution being different. And I know everyone says like, hey, just be yourself, because like there's only one of you, and if people resonate with you the most, they're going to buy from you, and that's true to an extent. But there's a difference between you being different in your personal brand and you being different in your solution. Okay, so before we move on, I want to make sure that everyone understands so far. So if you are watching this live, then make sure you #live but I don't think anyone's watching this right now. All good, guys, except one person. Okay. So let me know if this all makes sense up to this point. If you have any questions up to this point, then make sure you just type them out in the comments, and we can come back to that in a bit. But anyway, the scripts that my clients use. Okay, so just to quickly summarize so far, a good differentiation strategy during the sales process is, first, you have to give value and you have to give some sort of like aha moment to the prospect. And the best way to do this is by showing people that the surface level problem is not the real problem compared to the root level problem, which is what your solution tackles. And when you do this right, what happens is you should almost see your prospect thinking like, oh, so that's why I haven't been getting results. Okay. So the first thing that you must do if you want to differentiate yourself in your sales process is you must give some sort of value, like on a consulting basis, to show people that they've been focusing on the wrong thing all along. One example of this is if you're in the fat loss space, then you can, or like one argument, right, or one angle is by showing people that the reason why all of their diets haven't worked in the past is because they're focused on eating less and moving more, and they just make you miserable. Whereas the real thing that determines their fat loss is their hormones. And so if they've been focusing on just eating less calories when really they need to fix their hormones, then that's the reason why they haven't lost weight. So that's what I mean by a logical argument, is you need to be able to logically explain to your prospects why the things they tried in the past didn't work. And what that does as a byproduct is it starts to indoctrinate your prospect into believing that your coaching is the best way to get there, right? Because if all the other diets in the world are just focused on eating less and moving more, but your specific process is focused on manipulating the hormones, and the science shows that the hormones are the things that control their fat loss, then your prospect's going to think like, okay, well, this guy like knows what he's talking about, right? Because he's almost like dispelled the other myths. So that's what I mean when I say that you have to present a logical explanation, which almost like explains why the previous things they tried in the past doesn't work. So in continuation to that too, basically you're just showing people that your thing isn't just more of the same stuff of what they already tried before, because then if it is, then like it's impossible to charge 1,500 when the neighbor next door is charging 50, right? If it's just more of the same thing. So this is kind of what we spoke about earlier. You need a position, maybe like your script or whatever it is, where you're showing them that your solution and your coaching is going to fix the root level problem, AKA hormones, whereas what they've been doing all along is just fixing the surface level problem. And so this is the benefit of what happens when you do this right. And the most important thing in high ticket, especially in fitness, is we got to remember that it's a really saturated market. Like we're in a really saturated market. And for people to buy from you, they need certainty that it's going to work for them. And the only way they're going to get certainty is if they have hope that buying from you is going to be the last and final thing that they need. So of course, I'm going to get into my example in a bit, but just before that, one thing that you can do right after this training is just to journal out, what is my mechanism, right? Like, what is the actual process that I take my clients through that is different or better than all my competitors? And that's kind of what I call like a logical narrative. Like a good way to do this is just to brainstorm all the other solutions that you're competing against and figure out, of all those other solutions, what is it that they still don't have, or what is the downfall to that solution? And to give you guys an example just in business, because we recently did a launch, right? One thing that we see a lot of the time within like our market in business, with me, is that a lot of people don't like relying on high volume cold messaging to get clients and to book sales calls, as well as the fact that yeah, like a lot of people just don't get results that way because A, it's time consuming and it doesn't feel good, but also that's a very common solution that everyone else is teaching. So what I did was kind of have a look at that and then come up with a way so that people could get the same result without necessarily just purely relying on high volume cold messaging or cold outbound. So like that's the business example from my business, right? Is like you have to find a new opportunity, which is like a new way of doing something or a new way to get them the same result. And this is a bonus if it also slides perfectly into something that your prospects already don't like doing. So I just wrote an example here in fat loss because that's the example that I wrote up for my clients. Is maybe you help people lose fat and look shredded and look good naked and whatnot, but maybe your process revolves around helping people lose fat by manipulating their hormones, right? And maybe even eliminating certain, fat storage hormones or whatever it is. And so the way you present your argument is you show people that eating less and dieting in 1200 calories is just a surface level problem. And this is the only thing that they have tried to tackle, when really the reason why they're not getting results is because they're not focusing on this thing. So you know how straight away you're able to position yourselves as different because you're not just another diet that makes them eat less, even though it's, customized and everything, but you're actually a diet that tackles a completely different problem altogether. And another example here is just that maybe you're a coach that helps people focus on changing their gut health, right? So let me know what you guys think about this so far. I'm just going to check your comments on my phone. 6 people are watching. Amazing, because here is the juicy bit. Okay, now to get into the actual script, I'm going to also run you guys through the psychology behind it. And I am going to use the fat loss example via hormones as the root level problem. So quick recap. This script that I'm about to teach you is what you should be using between the discovery section of your call and the actual, your actual offer pitch. And once you understand this principle, then you can also pepper it into your marketing too and your content and all that good stuff. So moving on from the discovery, I'll just say hey, is there anything else you want to mention before I give you some guidance, right? And so the first thing that we're doing here is we're giving them a perspective shift. So this is the aha moment, right? And it's okay, cool. So the reason why all your diets haven't worked in the past, eating less and cutting out specific foods and whatnot, is because all of those things are just the surface level issue, right? But the real problem that's keeping you from losing 5 pounds or losing 10 pounds is actually your hormones. So then the first thing that is you're showing people here, root level problem versus the surface level problem. And then at this point, your prospects are kind of going to be oh, well, that's amazing. And you want to kind of give them a braingasm, right? Tell them something that they haven't actually heard before. So the second sentence here is now what most people get wrong is they think the key to losing fat is all about eating less and moving more. And while that's true to an extent, what people don't realize is that it's really your hormonal balance, which your weight is actually predicated on. You with me so far, right? So you're just explaining that once more. And you're meeting them with where they're at because they think that the key to losing fat is all about eating less and moving more. And then this is just a tie down. And in general, throughout your sales process, it's really important that you're not just rambling for 5 minutes because for all you know, the prospects disengaged while you're just reading off your script. So I just like to quickly say check in with them and say, you good? Are you with me? Now, the second part is where it gets kind of fun. What I did was I wrote a series of questions and it's okay, and this is just continued on with the script, right? So it's okay, so you know how you keep on maybe gaining and losing the same 5 pounds, and whenever you diet, you just suddenly get super hungry and kind of get pissed off at your husband, right? And just feel weird with your brain. And you know how every time you try to lose any, push past 5 pounds, it's your body's working twice as hard against you to kind of stop you from losing that weight, right? Well, that's something that you're experiencing called hormonal fight back. So I want to explain the psychology behind this first. And the first thing is that when you ask them a series of questions, I mean, of course, you can like tweak the words and you can plug in the pain points that they give you here. But the crazy thing is like, even if you read this exact same thing to like 9 out of 10 prospects, 9 out of 10 prospects of yours would probably be like, oh yeah, 100%. I like really, really resonate with that. And the reason is because it's in like human psyche where have you guys ever come across those personality tests or those like horoscopes? And it's like you read the description and you're like, oh, that's so me. Like I'm definitely a Virgo or I'm definitely a Leo or whatever it is. When in reality, like if they gave the same set of horoscope descriptions to 10 different people with 10 different personalities, they would always think that it sounds like that specifically. And that's a level of confirmation bias where we can actually use and copy a lot of the time to show people that you really understand them. Because when we are, it's like everyone can mentally find examples where they fit into these. So it's like confirmation bias. And also they sound really specific, that's the key, but they also sound really vague in the sense that they can technically be applied to a lot of people. So the other thing is it's important to get people saying in their heads, like, yes, yes, yes to these things, because when you get people in a pattern of saying yes, then they're then more likely to be bought into the idea that you want to present them afterwards. And this is an NLP tactic where it's almost like you're like pacing them and leading, where you get people in a pattern or in a psychological state of saying yes, 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 so that by the time you actually want to suggest the idea, or by the time you suggest the idea that you want people to be bought into, they're going to just more naturally be receptive and say yes to it. So that's the first part. And then the second part here is that's something you're experiencing called hormonal fight back. What we're doing from a marketing standpoint, because once again, I want you guys to not copy this necessarily, but also understand the concept so that you can turn this into your own, is that you are, whenever you like put a name on the pain and on the problem, then that's something that we call mechanizing the pain to help people understand the problem. And the cool thing about this is even if they like don't buy from you right now, every time they think about these symptoms that they experience every day, they are then gonna think like, oh, hormonal fight back. Oh yeah, that's what Jimmy does. So they're still gonna be thinking about you all the time, even if they don't buy on that call. And then here, what we're doing is from a more logical standpoint, you are once again just explaining the philosophy to them. So let me just break down the syntax for you, right? So it's like, see, there are certain hormones that determine your body set point. So long as these hormones are switched on, your body is going to fight like hell to stop you from losing weight, which means that you're going to never break past 150 and ultimately get the body that you want, so you can have more confidence and, like marry the girl of your dreams and things like that. So the framework here is you're showing them the cost of not solving the issue, which ring, ring, ring is what you're here for, here to help them to do. But what you're doing is you're hinting to them like, hey, this is what happens like if you don't fix this problem. And then you're contrasting it with the benefit that they want. And here, of course, you're going to tie in what they told you they wanted on the sales call. Another tie down. Now, what we do is it starts to explain the benefit. So it's like, here, cool. Like at the same time, there are certain hormones that we call the fat burning hormones that you can take advantage of. So if you're able to increase or tweak these certain hormones, then you're going to be able to lose fat a lot easier, not feel tired all the time, even though you're eating less, and keep your metabolism high and not be as hungry, not even feel hungry or not even crave things, even though you're technically dieting. and ultimately lose or actually get down to 120 pounds while having your metabolism work for you and not against you. So then what we're doing is we are contrasting this with the benefit of what happens when they solve the problem. And also show like future pace, like just showing them like the stacked up benefit of what happens when they get their hormones in check, right? Another tie down. And then here it's like, look, as you start to think about having the body of your dreams, being able to, not just, I think I meant to say like, not just have confidence, not just have more confidence, but also have more energy instead of being tired all the time. What you find is that the more we focus on manipulating your hormones, the more these things will actually fall into place as a byproduct. And so here what we're doing is we are showing them the chunked up version of what happens when they fix their real problem you've already planted into their minds, which is the hormones. And the cool thing here is we're actually, when we say this sentence, it's what I call a hidden command. So you're telling people to think about having the body of your dreams, right? Except they don't actually know that you're telling them to do that. So the next thing here is we are just, chunking down the logic, like logically how hard or how close they are to reaching their goals, because a main thing that people need to buy from you is always certainty, right? It's believability. And so if you can chunk down like, hey, this is like £1 a week, it's totally doable with the right system. So long as we get your body working for you, not against you, then you start to build even more of a logical rationale of like how they are actually a lot closer to it than they think they are. And so they can actually like visually see that it's possible for them. And so another tie down right there. And then you just finish off at this point with, cool, so I can walk you through like our process and how that looked like, but you tell me when you want to go. And then at that point, that's when you go into your offer. So let's see what questions you guys have. Genius, Clint says genius. Thank you, Clint. Good to have you here. So you just joined today. Let me know what you guys think about this. Let me know your biggest takeaways from this so far. I see that one person's on with me now. Okay. So just to recap, the main thing that you need in order to differentiate is you need to have a new opportunity for people, which is a new way of doing things or a new way of getting people a specific result. And ideally it should be a 50 on the crazy scale, because this is too vanilla. No one's going to buy high ticket just for accountability. This is too crazy. No one's going to believe it. And it's impossible for you to pull off as a coach. So think of a unique angle, and you can use that in your marketing and in your sales. And I've given you guys the hormone example, right? So this is the actual script that a lot of my clients use. Obviously, this script is just, like one part of the whole sales process. You also need to make sure that you have a way to prime your leads even before they get on a call, and a way to pitch your offer. And with offer, something that I want to clarify, and you guys will hear this like again and again, is that your offer doesn't always refer to the physical deliverables of your service, right? So when we say offer, or like how to differentiate your offer, we're not talking about one-on-one calls. We're not talking about like, hey, you get trainerized and I'll send you a free iPad if you pay in full. An offer refers to, it's a marketing term, it's a copywriting term, and it refers to the way you communicate what you do to a client in a way that's unique and solves their problem. So that's all I have for you guys. Clint says this makes complete sense, because instead of showing people how I look, it doesn't help their problem in the end. Yeah, I agree. And the thing is, sometimes like with high ticket, a big like barrier that people get is, people say, well, I've tried like X thing in the past and like it didn't work for me. So how do I know that your thing is going to work? And if you can reframe their thinking and shift their perspective to show them that all along they've been focusing on a surface level problem, when your solution is the real solution, the root level problem, then straight away there's no comparison, because you're helping people lose fat by manipulating or tweaking their hormones, whereas all the other diets help people lose fat just by eating less. But what those people don't tell you is that it doesn't matter how little you eat if you don't fix your hormones, which is ring, 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 what you do. Okay. And obviously, if you are, like, I know a bunch of us are science-based, like me. So if you preach flexible dieting and if it fits your macros, of which I do it too, then obviously you know that the hormone example might not necessarily be 100% scientifically accurate, but I just use that as an example so that you guys can understand the clear surface versus root level problem thing. But other than that, that's all I have for you guys. So I hope you found this helpful. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your biggest takeaway was. If you use this, then let me know how it goes. So shoot me a message on Facebook. Let me know whether you close the sale with this. But other than that, I will see you guys in the next live. Bye, guys.